Hey everybody, this is Glenn and welcome to Moto Apex. We are finally getting to look today at the Yamaha FZ-09 2014 naked bike. This is a really cool bike and I'm glad to be able to show it today. But before we get started, let's just take a listen to it. So that's pretty cool. I think that's what you want to hear when you're firing up your triple cylinder bike. And the Yamaha, I think, has gotten this one right. This bike has gotten just a ton of press. If you're like me and you look at all the motorcycle magazines, you've seen this one on the cover. It's on the cover of Motorcyclist and has been on the cover of other magazines. And the folks out there reviewing this bike are really excited about it. And the reason for that is that it's an all-new bike. It's at a great price point of $8,000, and for that you're just getting a lot. You're getting the triple cylinder engine, which is all new. In fact, this entire bike is all new. It's not a bike that's been built from other models that are, cobbled together to bring out a new model. This is truly Yamaha having designed and spent a lot of time bringing out a really great new bike. And they've brought a lot of technology for the price, and that's why this bike's getting so much attention. It's $8,000. You're getting the 847cc triple cylinder engine with 12 valve dual overhead cams, and you're getting 105 horsepower, but also you're getting some really great technology. This bike's throttle is controlled by ride-by-wire technology, which really means there's a chip controlling the throttling system, and you're also getting 3 riding modes, which we're going to talk about. But I kind of want to start out, really describing this bike at a high level, and I want to nickname this bike the Little Devil because I've ridden some more powerful bikes and have been fortunate to get to ride a number of different sports bikes, but this one, it's just a hot little bike, and the reason I want to describe it that way is it's got a reputation as being one that the front end will come up if you get too aggressive on the throttle and too aggressive with the clutch. And when I got on it and heard it start and was told to be careful about the front end coming up, your heart's racing a little bit and you're excited about riding the bike, and it really delivered on all of that excitement. But as you consider the 3 modes and you look at them, you've got standard, B mode, which is kind of a city mode, and you've got the A mode. And it's the A mode that's really the most aggressive, and that's the one where if you're not as experienced of a rider and you get too cute with the throttle and the clutch, the front end of this bike could come up on you. So if you're a relatively new rider, I would recommend that you ride it in the standard mode or the B mode. And I think from what I've read, and I rode it in all modes, and the difference between the standard mode and the B mode are a little bit subtle to me, but the B mode is the city mode and is probably the safer and better mode for you to get comfortable with this bike. But in all candor, I would say the standard and B mode, I would say that about both of them. But on that A mode, be careful. For those of you that are kind of new to the Moto Apex review, the purpose of our reviews is to not get too technical. However, you'll see all the technical specs on this bike, either in the titles or I'll mention them. But the characteristics that we look for in recommending a bike are around seat height, brakes and balance, controls and instruments, reliability and price. And so as we look at those characteristics, this bike would definitely qualify as a first or second time bike. It scores 4.7 out of 5 points on the scale we use. And if you want to see the specifics, then go to the website www.motoapex.com and you can see that. But let's talk about some of those criteria in a less formal way. The seat height on this bike is 32.1 inches, and we kind of steer new riders more towards a 31-inch seat height. And the reason for that is because I'm a relatively short rider, that's a key sensitivity because you've got to be able to get your feet down. But as you look at this bike and look at the narrow seat and the narrow tank, you can get your feet down even if you're not a taller rider. So that's very important. And I think Yamaha's done a great job in that regard. And the other thing about that is that when you're in your riding position and you get your knees tucked against the tank, you're in a very confident riding position. It makes you feel very balanced and in control of the bike. So the bike really scores well on seat height and balance. Regarding the brakes, some of the motorcycle magazines have talked a little bit about the brakes and some of the characteristics not being exactly what some of those reviewers want. But from a Moto Apex perspective, the brakes are fine, and I would not spend a lot of time being concerned about what you read about that. I would just simply, as I always say, when you ride the bike, check out the brakes and see how they feel to you. But from a Moto Apex perspective, we prefer ABS, and this bike does not have ABS. That's not a big issue. A lot of bikes are still not offering ABS. It's a great safety feature, but this bike simply doesn't have ABS. As I grip down on the brakes, I found the front end to compress a little more than I would like it to, but I think that's something that could be addressed at the dealer. As I look at the controls and the instruments, the controls are, standard. They're in the standard position, and so there's no real comments about the controls, except for the fact that this bike offers different modes, and the mode button is very convenient, and it's easy to change between modes. You just simply press the button. You don't have to stop. You can change between modes. When you turn the motorcycle off, it goes back to standard mode, but then you can change it to the B or A mode. And again, for newer riders, we're recommending the standard or the B mode. What I really like about this bike is the instrumentation. As you look at this small instrument panel, it's got all the information you would need. The tach, the speed, the fuel, indicators are all there. But what I really like when I look at the instrument panel, in addition to those items, and I think it's a cool looking instrument panel, is that it tells you the gear position. And I like that. When I'm at a red light, sometimes I'm not sure if I'm in first or second, and it's great to be able to look down. And sometimes when I'm passing, I really like to know if I'm in fourth or fifth instead of sixth, because I want that little bit of extra torque as I pass. And so it's just nice information to have. All of that said, as far as passing is concerned on this bike, that's a non-issue. There's just a ton of reserve power in this bike at 105 horsepower. But it's still nice to know. In terms of reliability, Yamaha engines are just known for being bulletproof, and I've had a Yamaha before, and the engines are great. This one's all new. It's a triple cylinder, and I would just expect it to be reliable. Obviously, there's no data on that yet, but Yamaha just has a great reputation in that regard. As to price, that's the thing here to be talking about. It's $8,000, and for that, you're getting all the technology that we've talked about. You're getting the triple cylinder engine with 105 horsepower. You're getting great instrumentation. You're getting ride-by-wire technology, and you're getting the 3 riding modes. So for my money, that's a lot of value for $8,000. And for somebody that's always wanted a triple cylinder bike, I'm really excited to see one available at $8,000. As you look at some of the press on this bike and you read about the things that the reviewers say about it, there's 2 comments that come up consistently. And one is that the back end to some of the more experienced sport bike riders feels, quote, a little soft or spongy. I didn't feel that. I've been riding for 3 years, and I've ridden a lot of miles, and I've ridden a lot of bikes, and I thought the back end of this bike felt plenty firm to me. But you want to put it, at the preload position, you want to put it in the firmest position. And then if you become more experienced and you become a more experienced rider in the corners and you begin to feel that characteristic, there are things the dealer could easily do to resolve that, including upgrading that shock. And in my conversations with Atlanta Motor World, they could offer an R version of this bike, which would be an upgraded suspension version. The other thing that came up in the reviews is very technical. It's talking about the feel of the front brakes because the brake cable is in a rubber casing instead of rubber tube, instead of in a stainless steel or steel braided cable cover. And believe me, that is a subtle point for most riders, and I would disregard that. In fact, I would disregard both of those comments and simply ride the bike. And I think what you'll find is, like me, you'll be so excited about this bike that you'll say, those comments are really just not important to me. So, what do we like about this bike? It's just a pure blast to ride. It's got plenty of power on demand with the 847cc, 105 horsepower triple cylinder engine. It's got a great 6-speed transmission. It's cool looking, and that always matters in my book. And it's got very complete instrumentation. It's solid in the corners, and it's nimble in either the cornering or the lane changing. I found the feel of the roll between lanes to be just very comfortable, and I found my cornering to be very confident. So it's a great little bike in that regard. What are the things I'd like to see on the bike? Quite frankly, just a little windscreen, and I think that's coming. When you ride a naked bike, you're going to take the full brunt of the wind, and what a little windscreen does is it channels the wind up towards your helmet and really gets the wind around you with less buffeting. And because I ride on the expressway a lot and spend in every ride at least an hour or two on the expressway, I'd like to have that little windscreen, and to my understanding, it's coming. So, as I look at this bike, obviously the experienced rider is going to have a blast on it, but from a new rider's perspective, it is a bike that has great handling. It has the characteristics we look for at Moto Apex, but we're just going to caution you that we always prefer to see an absolute new rider start on a bike more in the 250cc category. This would make a great second bike, but if you want a bike like this for your first bike, know it's a little hot. Know that it has the characteristic of a potentially rising front end, and get to know that bike well before you put it in B mode and practice your emergency braking, which you should do at all times anyhow. You should always practice your braking and all of the things you cover in your MSF course. So this is a super cool bike at a great price. I'd encourage you to check it out. Moto Apex thinks that this is a great bike. And I want to finish by thanking Atlanta Motor World. They're just a great dealer, and they took a lot of time to go over this bike with me. Atlanta Motor World is a Yamaha, Honda, Kawasaki, Ducati dealer in Atlanta, and I would really encourage you to go by and say hello to the folks there if you happen to be in Georgia or in the Southeast and that's convenient to you. But thanks to Atlanta Motor World. Thanks as always to coming to MotoApex.com, and as always, ride safe and take care.